Hello, this is the Hovering Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative take about the world around me. So my introductions. Feel free to reach out to me either through email, subtext, questions, comments, concerns, and X, and of course fill up those comments on YouTube. Be greatly appreciated. So some of the audio platforms that I'm on is Spreaker, of course, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, just to name a few. So this episode is all about, I'm going to talk about the concepts of supermodels and the association, what does that mean, and how that the aspects of models being a household name in the 90s, what does that mean too, and the aspects of supermodels and association, the advertisement, what does that mean too, and all of this is going to be interlaced with my thoughts along with that too. All right, so here we go. Okay, so this is the AI generated response to the term supermodel. So it says, this term originated in the early 20th century with the first known written example dating back to 1942. However, the concept of supermodel, as we understand it today, began to take shape much earlier. So Lisa Fons Givers is often considered the world's first supermodel. Why is that? Says, with her career spanning from the 30s to the 50s, she appeared in major fashion and general interest magazines, including Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. The term gained popularity in the 90s, but its roots can be tracked back to the 40s and 50s. So during this period, models like Evelyn Nesbit and Dorian Dorian Lee, were also referred to as supermodels. So in the 60s, you get models like Twiggy, which became a prominent figure, popularizing a new look that defined the mod movement. So by the 70s, you saw the rise of models like Lauren Hutton and Beverly Johnson, who were the first African-American supermodels to appear on the cover of American Vogue. So by the 80s and the 90s, it marked the heyday of supermodels with names like Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, and Christy Turlington, which they became household names. So these models not only graced the covers of leading fashion magazines, but they also endorsed products outside of the fashion industry. So by the 2000s and beyond, models like Gisele Bündchen and Tyra Banks emerged as supermodels, leveraging their fame to launch businesses and media ventures. So social media has played a significant role in the rise of newer supermodels in recent years, with the platforms like Instagram becoming crucial for discovery and promotion. All right, so I'm going to give my thoughts and expand onto this. Here we go. Okay, so when it ended, talking about Instagram, see, that's a very tricky thing. I think, me personally, saying you're an Instagram model and something and so forth and an influencer, some people, maybe, if, your product placement for a particular clothing brand, I can say, yeah, I would think, yeah. But from that, it just seems convoluted to me, because with the aspects of the discipline and so forth, models do get a lot of rap, and it's unfortunate. A lot of to when you get into the aspect of the profession of it's all about your image and how you look, getting into the path of being out of control with different, alcohol and narcotics and stuff, going through, abuse, and that taking over the toll and models getting a bad rap. But that's not what it's all about. It's about, it goes without saying. I'll be right back here. Just, again, it goes to your personality and your determination and how your viewpoint about the profession. And I think that takes a long way, and it shapes the aspects of how you're perceived and how you thought about, and then what you bring to the table as far as being a model, but particularly a supermodel. So, okay. Now, with all that being said, that's something to think about here and consider. So, as I said before, breaking it down. So with the aspects of supermodels being a household name, that was very prevalent in my growing up in the 90s. So, you got, the 90s was a time where particularly the aspects of fashion and culture was more prevalent and more understood. And the thought process of mainstream America. So, you got the aspects of the concept of everyday wear more accessible. So when you're getting into the aspects of catalog magazines, and like Spiegel, Sears, and so forth. Even, I don't think Spiegel, those are to the wayside, but you get my point where it came more accessible to look at different clothing and picture and imagine what you want, and then just buying it. And so with models like Cindy Crawford, Evangelista, Christy Turlington, Naomi Campbell, and the list goes on, models like this, and then seeing them, of course, when I was saying by MTV's House of Style and so forth and other things like that, you start to get more of a approachable idea about the aspects of fashion as people start to pay more and more attention to different designers, and they start to come onto the mainstream, particularly designers like, I would say, or as a toss-up, but anywhere from Oscar de la Renta, anywhere it's from Versace and so forth. Now, and then going in, also it goes to the aspects of what ties in to brand attire, brand loyalty, and does supermodels really help with adding up the atmosphere of the product, okay? So what am I saying about this? All right, so brands like Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, J. Crew, Birch, so forth. Now, Ralph Lauren, well, I would say Calvin Klein to a lesser extent started the path of, Americana chic, where they termed it more so, that term became more prevalent or more aware of that sort of category here with preppy chic, preppy and so forth. So that, it had a whole imagery, a whole atmosphere of, you get Summers by Maine, that Maine attire of wear sweaters were more chic and stylish looking. You got polo shirts, more chic and stylish looking, all the way into Ralph Lauren doing more high-end design clothing for women, as far as work attire, all the way to even formal, with clothing and with the clothing of gowns and so on and so forth. And that was tailor-made to a specific type of look. And so the models really, really put the stamp of approval and the kind of culture that this was associated with. And so there are some studies that say, and that beg the question, and then when I go into more depth throughout this year, I'm going to go into more depth about advertising. And, I'm already starting it, but it's going to be pulled in on Substack and then so forth. And then on my main channel here with the Harboring Light. And so right here, I'm just going to touch the surface and just talk about from the knowledge that I gained and from reading over the years about things like this. So with the aspects, do models help to increase the awareness of a product? You can say that, I'm sorry, my nose is very stuffy. I'll be right back. I'll take care of this. I'll be right back. Okay, so, it's really good to look at things from different points of view here. To make a joke, you don't want it to paralyze you like Hamlet, but I digress. So, I would say yes, particularly with the aspects of, now this is a hot button issue, and it's one of those things. So Abercrombie and Fitch and American Outfitter versus those two, and go on to Victoria's Secret, and I'm gonna talk about these three and then expand that out. So with Abercrombie and Fitch, it had a whole atmosphere. This was even more prevalent when I was a teenager and coming up. And all the controversy that came with that, rightly so. So Abercrombie and Fitch, over the years, it was more, if I'm not mistaken, more for outdoors and so forth. But it evolved to this thing where it just centers around the Californian look. And so what that meant was buff-bodied young men and sleek, slimming women. And then you would see black and white photos of them, posted of living a life, the Californian, Orange County, Southern California, I guess, vibe. And then I would even span out to having young men with no shirt and just, being a part of the image, the brand. And that took a whole different perspective about the aspects of Abercrombie and Fitch and how people perceive that brand. Now, getting into American Apparel, there's a lot of controversy with that, particularly with at the time in the early to mid 2000s with, harassment charges from the guy who was the CEO of it or something like that. And so it was a unique thing where the models were in itself the employees. And so that transitioned a whole other perceived notion about the aspects of brands being more associated with everyday people. And then, you get that sort of perspective, particularly with teenagers. So teenagers or so, oh, if I work for American Apparel, I could possibly be the new spokesperson or what, so forth. And that is a thing that is very perceived with the atmosphere that is stepped to American Apparel, what you think about when you see this brand. Now, Victoria's Secret, particularly with the Victoria's Secret fashion shows, the supermodels would be asked to do this, and they tried to go be progressive and say, oh, everybody is accepting, everybody is beautiful, and that slapped their butts and their faces down to the concrete and realized, no, that's not the right path to take. We gotta venture back to what, again, is the staple of Victoria's Secret: elegance, grace, and beauty. And people want to see that, and women, if you're being honest too, it's something, aspirations or something, it's like that complex with wish fulfillment, something like that. But it's just, something people like: beautiful subjects, beautiful things to look at. And that's why, you wouldn't want to look at great sculptures, the Greek sculptures or great paintings or so forth, when somebody's gut laying all out. No, you want somebody that's nice, defined, slender, toned looking. And so this is the brand, this is the image staying true to the sought after image of Victoria's Secret, and that is what is associated with that brand. So with all these different examples, you can argue that, yes, particularly how you use the models and what that can shape the success or the failure of a brand. And that's something to definitely think about here when we get into aspects of supermodels. And so going off to Target, and okay, so that, in itself too. And then, so there's different, and then TJ Maxx and so forth. And even Marshalls and Ross. So these things all have different perceived concepts of how people think about the brand. So for Target, for some reason, it's more upscale versus Walmart, and to the lines of going on to, excuse me, wow, science is really kicking my butt, but here we go. To, even Ross and Marshalls have different connotations too. Ross more, and less, bargain buy, versus Marshalls more high end. So why is that? So particularly is how the brand is, how the things that are associated with it. So with Walmart and with brands like Ross, it's all about they constantly give you images that say "here to save." They even say it in their slogans, their advertising, where we can save you money. But with Target and Marshalls and TJ Maxx, they do that tweak where, yes, it's for everyday, it's for everybody, it's for, everyday people, but on the higher scale too. And it's unfortunate that particularly with Target, they want to push these agendas that is not appropriate, family appropriate. And that's another stain. I think depending on certain company who you talk to, they think some people think it's perfectly fine, but from my point of view, it's not. That's a stain on the company where it gives a whole different look too when you think about that aspect. Going back to Victoria's Secret and that aspect too. But getting back to the point here, it's the image, because particularly with the type of models and everything that is associated with Target, particularly when I was growing up, and more so, and then in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, the type of people that were showcased, particularly models that were showcased, they looked like supermodels. They looked like that, so that revamped the image here. And that's something to consider too. All right, with all that said, I'm going to get into an article that goes into more depth about supermodels and its aspects towards society and, so forth. All right, here we go. Okay, of course, this source will be provided for you in this episode. So, model. And then also with the aspects, it breaks it down. Supermodel. So, fashion model who is more widely, this is the definition, and then it goes into it. So, fashion model who is more widely recognized and better paid than ordinary models. And yes, I'm glad that point is being made. So, when you're a supermodel, not just regular model, supermodels get paid the big bucks when you get into that term. So that's where it's really sought after if you want to take this profession as a model, because agency, when you're with your agency and then you get work, the brands, top brands and so forth really want to seek you, and you're very sought after. You're very to the aspects of hot commodity or real estate, hot property there. Not pop, you get my point, where, when you are buying a home, particularly when you want a home, and then it's, I know, there's a difference between a home that's stamped as $3.5 million and up versus a home which is a lot when you consider everything, that's $350K. There's a difference. And so that real estate really counts with why do you differentiate the aspects of the reasons why it's 3.5 million is up versus 350,000 and so forth. It's the way all the details, that craftsmanship in the house, the space, the so forth and so forth, the space, so forth. And that's really the mechanics, I think, from my point of view, about the aspects of the term supermodel versus regular model, and being paid more versus being paid less. So it's particularly when you break down to the mechanics of how the model looks and how versatile they are. Are they more the aspects of, classically good looking, or do they have features that's more of an international appeal? Do they have features that's more of American appeal, that's universal? Do they have features that's just more unique to a certain type of style? When you get to high-end fashion like couture and so forth, that's something to think about here. The mass appeal versus not. So, model. So in the 1570s, likeness made to scale architect's set of designs from French model, modern French modelli, from Italian modellaro, a model mold, from the Latin modellos, which means a small measure standard. So it takes appropriate measures in the sense of standards for imitation or comparison of things or persons that serves or may serve as a pattern or type from the 1630s. So it says that word forming element of Latin origin, meaning above, over, and a place of position, also in the measurements and beyond, besides the addition from its form to the variant form, upper root over. So I think it's good to break it down from a dictorial point of view, from the word point of view, because I'm getting back to the aspect that words mean something. And then it's interesting, as time goes on, and the aspects of slang and jargon and the aspects of cultural shifts. What does this term mean? Why did these words mean something different in this time? But it's good to break it down and talk about the word supermodel from this point of view. Okay. So, I'm going to move on. Just a minute. All right, so what does it mean to be a supermodel? The definition has changed greatly through the years. Discovered a brief history of the supermodel ranging from the 40s to 2015, and on the familiar faces including Kate Moss, Twiggy, Carly Kloss, Giselle Bundchen, and much more. So the first beginnings of the supermodel started in the 40s and the 50s with, forgive me for the pronunciation, Bettini Grassini, also known simply as Bettina, working with influential designers including Christian Dior and Hubert de Givenchy. Her small waist helped define the new look, fashion, and the fashions of Dior. Reportedly, she commanded $1,300 an hour, over which stapled to over $11,000 in today's value. That's something. It's a far cry from what one would get paid appearing in Target Weekly ad or other catalogs. So moving on to the 60s and beyond. So in the 60s, Twiggy popularized a new look, which is the mod look, perhaps associated with the decline of the corset. Her stick thin frame, wide eyes, and pixie haircut became forever associated, as I said, the mod look. Jean Shrimpton, also a popular model of the era, helping to define the swinging 1960s towards the end of the decade. And Naomi Sims was also considered the first black supermodel of her time, as the first African-American model to appear in the cover of Ladies' Home Journal as well as Life magazine. So 70s, Lauren Hutton and beyond. So in the 70s, which unassured and with new models, Lauren Hutton, with her unique, with the way she looked, as far as the aspects of imperfections, when we get into that aspect, say, with her distinct honor of being the only model or celebrity to appear on American Vogue, and recorded 26 times in 74, Beverly Johnson became the first black model in history to appear on the cover of American Vogue and opening the doors for models of color. So the 80s. Okay, and then I was going to bring that up with the aspects of, body shaping. 80s, where the body was very, important in the way models looked. They looked like women. They had curves and everything. And so in the 80s, I saw the rise of the modern supermodel. And I think that Christy Brinkley brought the aspect of the California look, that fresh look there. Now, these women are not just recognizable, but they also endorse products outside. Yes, baby. Okay, so now these women were not just recognizable, but they also endorsed products outside of fashion, including Pepsi, Ford, trucks, and more. So Ellie Packerson, aka The Body, became famous for her history-making appearances in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, appearing in a record-breaking number of 5 times, while models like Cheryl Tiegs and Christy Brinkley were known for the girl next door appeal. Now, 90s supermodel era. So, thanks in part to actresses shying away from the fashion world, the 1990s were the heyday of supermodel, British Vogue, and Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, and Christy Turlington, Linda Evangelista, and Tajani Patsi, pronouncing that as much as I can, the supermodels of their day. The girls were known for their personalities as well as their personal lives, including relationships with rock stars and actors. Evangelista, as I was saying about the connotation about her, but, it's nice to see a show like House of Style, getting a different perspective about her work ethic and so forth with that. And that's something, you need to think about that to consider, with everything else. Even though this was said, you just look at both of them and then, get your point of view how you will. So, saying I wouldn't get out of bed for $10,000 a day, for less than $10,000 a day. So in the mid-1990s, also saw the rise of Kate Moss and the heroin chic look, which means you waist thin, even thinner than Twiggy, to where, you get that term to look sickly, to where it looks like narcotics were involved in your thinness. So by the late 1990s, celebrities began to return to magazine covers and advertising campaigns, citing an end to the peak. So 2000s, the model mogul. Although the exposure of supermodel faded, there was still new supermodels who emerged in the 2000s. So thanks to Victoria's Secret and its Angel contract, Gisele Bündchen, Tyra Banks, and Heidi Klum became household names. Unlike previous decades, many of the models turned their careers into business opportunities. So Klum became known for her hosting job on Project One Way, while Banks launched America's Next Top Model, which I think there is a distinct difference in between the two. So I think Klum went on I bet, even though it had drama in it and all that stuff, but for the good aspect of it, it essentially, but when she left, it went to a crap show. But when she was on the show, it really was all about the fashion, even though it's unfortunate with the aspects of reality TV, you gotta hype up the drama for ratings, that bull crap and so forth. But I think that America's Top Model really put mud in the waters there, because it gave, again, a really bad connotation about the aspects of supermodels, of being a supermodel. It was really more campy than actual the actual fashion of it, and so forth. And something that would be more suitable. Now, I'm not going to lie, when I was a teenager, I did look at it, and I did think it was interesting. But when, you grow up, and then you move on, and you get married, and you so forth, you become an adult, you look at this, and you're like, yeah. What is this? It's a crap show here. But my whole point is, it's two, even though they're in the realm of fashion, they present two very different concepts about the aspects of fashion. The business aspects of it, which with Heidi Klum was on the Project One Way, it was primarily about that for the most part, versus America's Top Model was all about the negative side for the most part of modeling, the fashion industry. And that's something to consider too here. All right, so Bunchen line of sandals and apparel company in Brazil has helped her rank number 1 on Forbes' highest paid models list for many years. 2010 to present day, the rise of social supermodel. So unlike previous decades, in 2010 on has saw the rise of models through an unlikely place, social media. In 2015 issue of Adweek, a modeling agent revealed that most top brands will not consider a model unless they have a large Instagram following, usually 500,000 and up. This has paved the way for models like Kendall Jenner for aspects, Carly Kloss, and so forth, people like this, and to have more of a voice. So versus models of previous decades, whether social media can bring back the heyday of the supermodel has yet to be seen. But there is no doubt that the internet has an impact on the modeling industry greatly. So, with this said, I'd like to know what you all think about the aspects of social media, modeling, and so forth. Do you think that's one of those things as means to an end, or something, if you use it wisely, is helpful, or do you think it's hurting the aspects of the fashion industry, or the aspects of supermodels and the brand, and when you break down that aspect of the marketing or the PR publicity of the image of the supermodel or models in general, with their placement, with advertising and so forth. Feel free to reach out to me either through email, Substack, X, and of course fill up those comments on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. All right, and then other aspects you might have about fashion or so forth, feel free to let me know, reach out, and so forth. Okay, so this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.